Today we're going to Anchorage, Alaska for this disturbing rabbit hole of a case.
Cynthia Hoffman was a young woman from a large, close-knit family in Anchorage, Alaska. Although Cynthia had had some learning disabilities, she didn't let that stop her from working hard and graduating high school. But on June 2nd of 2019, the lives of the Hoffman family would be changed forever. Cynthia had texted her dad that she was on her way to meet him, but she never showed up and wasn't answering calls or texts, which was extremely out of character. Cynthia's dad, Timothy Hoffman, immediately filed a police report for a missing person. But the police didn't take this very seriously at first because at 20 years old, Cynthia was legally an adult. So Timothy formed his own search parties to look for his missing daughter. Then Timothy started receiving some strange texts from Cynthia's best friend, who was this girl named Angela. She claimed Cynthia had asked to be dropped off at a playground in Anchorage, but she hadn't seen her since 4 p.m. of June 2nd. She went on to talk about how much she missed Cynthia and how she didn't trust some guy and how she thought Cynthia was ignoring everyone. Timothy thought all of this was pretty weird because he didn't know about Cynthia's plans to be dropped off at a playground, and he wasn't sure who this guy was that Angela was referencing. The police finally get involved, and they found that the phone number that Timothy had been texting didn't even belong to Angela. It actually belonged to a girl named Denali Brehmer. Denali was an 18-year-old who had been a high school friend of Cynthia's, so it was definitely sus that she was texting Cynthia's dad pretending to be someone else. Then on June 3rd, just the day after Cynthia had gone missing, Denali's mother goes to police telling them that her daughter had confessed and that she knew Cynthia was dead, and that a man named Anthony was responsible. However, Anthony wasn't really the name of the person Denali was referencing when she told her mother. This was just a made-up name to cover her tracks. Anthony was actually 16-year-old Caden McIntosh. 2 days after Cynthia had gone missing, her body was found in a river near Thunderbird Falls in the Chugach, Alaskan State Park. It was evident that she had been shot in the back of the head and bound with duct tape, so this was clearly a homicide. They also couldn't tell at this time if she had passed away due to the gunshot wound itself or if she had drowned from being thrown in the river after she was shot. Our two main suspects so far, Denali and Caden, were both arrested on charges of first-degree homicide. But this case got a lot deeper and a lot more sinister once the contents of Denali's phone were examined by investigators. It turns out that Denali had formed this texting relationship with a man supposedly named Tyler, who claimed to be a millionaire from Kansas, and he and Denali would exchange disgusting pictures with each other that involved explicit acts with children. There were tons of images of Denali SAing children that she would send to this Tyler guy at his request. Tyler would make requests to Denali that he would want her to SA an 8-year-old and then a 14-year-old and take videos of her doing this and send him the videos. And she would oblige these requests every time, and all of this evidence was on her phone. I assume that he must have been paying her something for these videos to keep up the ruse that he was in fact a millionaire, so she would believe him and continue to do his bidding. But over time, Tyler's desires got even more obscene, and he wanted Denali to SA and murder someone for him in exchange for $9 million. So Denali recruited Caden to help her with this disturbing plan, and they both just blindly believed that this Tyler guy would pay them all of this money. Denali decided to choose Cynthia as her victim because they were already friends, and Cynthia trusted her. To enact this plan, Denali claims that she and Caden borrowed a car from this guy named Caleb Leyland. Caleb was also in on the plan at this point. He knew what was going on, and Denali had offered to pay him $500,000 just to borrow his car. So Denali, Cynthia, and Caden ride around for a little while smoking the devil's lettuce, which was not something Cynthia normally did, so it's possible she could have been pressured or forced into doing it. Then the three of them drive for about 20 miles, and they had convinced Cynthia that they were just going for a hike in the Chugach, Alaskan State Park. They purposely stayed walking close to the river rather than on established trails so they wouldn't be seen by other people. Then they got to this little clearing area and stopped for a bit, and this is when Denali says that they made up this game where they would duct tape themselves and take pictures, as a joke. Once it was Cynthia's turn to be bound in duct tape, she realized that this was not a game, and she started to panic and threatened to call the police, saying that she had been kidnapped. It was later found in the autopsy that there was no evidence that Cynthia had been SA'd during this ordeal, even though that was part of Tyler's request. Denali was the one filming and documenting the attack as she sent Snapchats to this Tyler guy, while Caden was the one who grabbed the gun, which had been supplied by Denali, shot Cynthia in the back of the head, and dumped her body in the river. They then left the scene, took all of Cynthia's belongings and burned them, and then Denali started texting Cynthia's dad pretending to be this girl named Angela. Now, of course, Denali did not get that $9 million she was promised, so she started sending texts to Tyler that she wished she hadn't made a deal with him, and that if she saw a cop, she would tell them she made him SA people and kill Cynthia. Obviously, this plan did not work out so well for Denali. So who was Tyler? Well, his name was not really Tyler, and he was a catfish. Tyler's real identity was Darin Schilmiller, a 21-year-old from Indiana who still lived at home with his family and was definitely not a millionaire. This also was not the first time that Darin had catfished and tried to solicit images of children. Darin was a creep who had tons of fake social media profiles that he used to engage with young girls and women, usually in order to try and get inappropriate images of children, specifically images of babies in dirty diapers, or just pictures of dirty diapers. He was into that, apparently. He had been investigated for CP in the past after contacting a woman and trying to get pictures of infants in dirty diapers, and had recently tried to solicit these types of images from a local woman he had catfished from a dating site. But that case against him was dropped. But now Darin was in real trouble, and he was taken into custody on federal charges of CP as well as the conspiracy to commit murder. After everything was said and done, Darin, Denali, Caden, Caleb, and 2 unnamed minors, who had also been involved in this plot, were all under arrest for first-degree homicide, second-degree homicide, and conspiracy to commit homicide. Although Caden was only 16 at the time, he was tried as an adult for first-degree murder and 4 charges of tampering with evidence. Darin and Denali faced the conspiracy to commit homicide charges and the distribution of CP charges. The 2 minors admitted to being present during the planning stages of Cynthia's murder and were offered part of the $9 million. All of their trials were postponed due to the pandemic, but Denali's trial will be coming up in a few months. She has taken a guilty plea of first-degree murder and could face between 30 to 99 years in prison.